The year is 1939. After years of heavy expansion, Germany had just taken over Poland, and as a result, them, along with their main ally, Italy, have been thrusted into a grand global conflict, just like in the First Great War. And we're not quite sure what they're gonna call this war in the future, but hopefully it's nothing stupid like World War II or anything like that. But right now, the two main alliances are not looking very balanced. Germany is a part of the Axis, who only has around 1,000 people, while the Allies, on the other hand, have around 2.6 thousand, along with almost as many soldiers as the Axis has people. So just like in real life, even though the Axis is going to fight hard, they have genuinely zero chance of winning, especially if they do something stupid like go attack the Comintern in the Soviet Union over here, but I don't think they're that dumb after all. However, as you guess, this is not a real simulation of a World War II. This is Worldbox, and in Worldbox, we can do anything we want to. So what if the US joined the Axis? Well, in the 1936 election, the US did not re-elect FDR. Instead, they opted to elect someone else, a man who just went by Seymour. Literally no last name or anything, just straight Seymour. And they also didn't really elect him at all. He kind of just walked into the Oval Office with a rocket launcher in his hand, and that kind of seemed to do the trick. But Seymour here is evil. And because he's evil, when he saw this grand global conflict erupt, he wanted to take a side on it. The bad side. So he became great friends with the leader of Germany, Rudolf Milter. I think you know who this is supposed to be, I just can't say it. Who I also have favorited for some reason. That totally doesn't look good. Let's just undo that real quick. And now, because of that, the US officially joined the Axis, making them over twice as powerful. And even though the Axis now has over 2,000 people, they're still quite a bit weaker than the Allies, so it doesn't seem like much is going to change here. However, you're forgetting one main thing that gave Germany and the US a huge advantage in World War II: technology. And I seriously mean it, technology. If we look into the US and even Germany, we will see that they have an entire armada of tanks, soldiers, factories, the works, that the Allies simply don't have, at least not in the same capacity at all. I mean, just looking at Canada, despite having a ton of people and a ton of land, they only have 2 light factories right here. I mean, this war is a lot more balanced than you might think, and we may be able to finally see the Axis become the most powerful power. And by the way, for you guys wondering, all of these tanks and stuff is courtesy of the Warbox mod right here. You should go check it out. It's a cool mod. But with everyone finally ready for this conflict, we are going to click unpause as world population begins falling. I'm not even sure where to zoom in on. I guess we'll go into Germany, who with their tanks, probably a bit too many of them, they have already destroyed and steamrolled France in a matter of months, which is honestly pretty lore accurate, I guess. And they took it just like that. They're moving into Norway and Sweden. The US is sending all of their equipment up into Canada as well. And a lot of you are probably thinking that this war is going to be a lot more lopsided than you first thought. It's only been a year and the UK is gone. Canada is essentially gone. But we're still going to try to make this semi-realistic. So in a couple of years, Germany is going to maybe declare war on the Soviet Union over here, who has 1,000 people on their own. So anything could happen here, and I can also see that the Allies, despite fledgling, were still able to conquer Italy and Ethiopia. I guess some things just never change, guys. Never change. And even though France and the UK have fallen, you're probably forgetting about all of their colonies as well, such as Indonesia, owned by the Netherlands, the British Raj, and even Australia and New Zealand as well. But it seems like German troops are beginning marching into Africa across the desert. They have taken out Egypt over here, and they are now moving through the Sahara. Actually, as a matter of fact, here over by Morocco, if they could take this village, they'll get another factory to their advantage. But alas, it is already 1942, so you know what time it is. It's time for Operation Barbarossa. The Germans have already lined up a handful of tanks across their border, and we're gonna see if it's enough to take down the entire Soviet Union. This may be an extremely dumb idea, but it's what happened in real life. So the conflict begins. The Russians are going to be extremely armed, but it seems like they're already getting taken out really quick. But as you notice over here by Siberia, they actually have made a couple of factories. They've made a plane factory, a light factory, and a heavy equipment factory too, meaning even though they're losing this initial assault, they might just be able to come back in a minute. And also, this is just completely unrelated, but I like how on this map, Russia has like all of their buildings on the west side, and on the east side, there's like literally nothing, except for a bunch of soldiers literally holding sticks and stones on their hands, going to charge in to attack the Germans. Yeah, I feel bad for these guys. But but it seems like the Germans are now fighting a two-front war as a bunch of their tanks have been redirected over to the Soviet Union, who now have tanks of their own charging in. Weirdly enough, the US, who did end up taking Canada, hasn't really done much since. Their troops are kind of just chilling over here, and they have not even tried to move on. And I hate to say it, but it seems like Germany might already be getting pushed back in this war, as the Soviets are now moving into Finland just like in real life. However, not in real life. Instead of getting stopped by snipers in the snow, they just kill everyone. And honestly, I didn't even realize this, but the Allies aren't going anywhere. They still have 1.7 thousand people, and while they still lack pretty much any technology at all, they are still kicking, while the Axis is actually around 600 people right now. But finally, it seems like the Germans have kind of figured out what's going on again. They built more factories, and they've finally been able to actually charge in and take down some enemy tanks when they get in close range. And the Soviet Union is down to just 70 people left. But remember, I'm actually trying to keep this video somewhat realistic, so as you'll notice, the Japanese Empire is at war with the Chinese United Front over here, seeing who's going to come out with that. And also, the Philippines are a part of the Axis as well, since during this time, I believe they were somewhat of a puppet state to the US. And yeah, I think the USSR is all but destroyed, as one of their last troops here, literally the main general of their army right here, is walking in with a wooden stick. Yeah, he's gone. He's dead. And you know, I'm just realizing this now, but Italy is gone. That's how you know how bad they are, when they still get destroyed even in this circumstance. But still, the Axis are only growing stronger, now back up to 900 people. They've taken over the northern half of Africa, and the USSR literally has one person left. Let's just see where this guy is. He's just frolicking through his war-torn, destroyed country, right next to a bunch of German tanks to his left. I'm sure this is totally not going to end well. Yep, I'm not quite sure what he thought was going to happen. Now that the USSR has been destroyed, one thing I'm realizing is there's a bunch of free and open factories that if Germany can go reclaim, they'll get even stronger, as they are huge now. I didn't even look at this. I also like how since the UK got destroyed, Ireland was finally able to get all of their island for once. You know, looking into countries like Australia over here, over time, they've actually been able to build up themselves a pretty sizable army, I'm not gonna lie, even with just one factory over here. They have a crap ton of APCs over here that could definitely be used for some destruction. However, other places like New Zealand are literally doing absolutely nothing. And you know, I don't know how it's taken me this long to finally realize this, but we are essentially just playing Hoi 4 here, aren't we? Well, Hoi 4 on a budget. And finally, as I'm looking down, the US has launched an invasion force into Australia of all places, using a ton of their army that I think they're actually going to lose. Wow, that's a huge blow to them. They used a ton of their firepower that they had been building for literally years at this point in that one attack, and they couldn't even defeat Australia, which is odd to me. By the way, kind of a weird thing to mention here, but I just kind of want to say it, is the British Raj is gone. However, it wasn't taken over by Germany or any of the Axis at all, but Saudi Arabia. So just take that as you will, I guess. But Germany keeps pressing through Africa. They're really just destroying and killing everything more than they're even like conquering it, which is kind of odd to me. They take down the villages that were here. That means finally Germany has taken all allied presence out of Africa now. I'm assuming the US is strengthening their army up, probably for another attack of Australia here, but clearly that didn't work out last time. And interestingly, France has colonized part of Siberia up here, but that might actually be extremely beneficial. Look how many unclaimed houses are here that could actually boost their population. And all of these unclaimed factories over here too. That's a lot of tanks. German tanks, yeah, they killed it. Okay, never mind, guys. In another development here, China has actually defeated Japan, as now it seems like Germany has actually sent some troops down and are tearing their way through Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, all these places, absolutely decimating and causing havoc to them. They send some troops down and take out New Zealand as well. And wait, the Allies have been destroyed here for a second. Wait a minute. That means there's only one country left. Australia. Of course they're last. They are always last, aren't they? Looks like there's still left over a couple of German tanks, though, taking pot shots down on them. But these guys are actually, like, pretty powerful. However, the US is growing even more powerful with all of their tanks and stuff here. By the way, just kind of a random mention, it's 2003. This is probably just because warbox time works in pretty weird ways, but I like to imagine how this war has been going on at this point over 60 years. And it seems like the US has finally launched another attack force on Australia. But look at these guys. The US just seems to not be really knowing what they're doing. Well, they're getting absolutely wrecked by the much more organized Australian force here. But is it going to be enough? Are they going to be able to fight back? Looks like they're bringing in reinforcements on another ship, and oh god, the Germans just showed up. Okay, well, in a mixed effort, they killed everyone. Australia just got obliterated. Meaning, in a sort of an interesting question, if the US joined the Axis, they would most certainly win World War II. But it seems like in the wreck of Australia, they were immediately colonized by someone. Switzerland, with their motto, "We are one," which is actually pretty accurate considering they only have one person in there too. Okay, that sounds about right. But anyway, if you're still watching at this point, clearly I did something to entertain you, so I'd appreciate it if you would click like and subscribe, and also join my Discord too, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Farewell.